Welcome back to class. In our last class, we looked at our if statement. In this class, we will be using a combination of two functions, which is our count and our if. So we'll be using our count if function. For our count if function, this function returns the count of a number of cells which consist of number and met a given condition. It means that you must have a condition that will be fulfilled and before your Excel will make the count. For example, if you are in a class and you are make the class rep and you are asked to count the number of male students in the class, it is as simple as saying count from this whole class if they are male. Count from this whole class if they are male. So, and that solves the meat behind your count if. To understand this better, we have an exercise over here. This is a class of 5 students, and each student has their score from mathematics to science to English, and each of these has a grade. We have used if statements to check whether their grade falls in between A or B, which is what we did in our last lesson. Also, in this lesson, what we want to see is how many students has A in mathematics, how many students has B in mathematics, how many students has C in mathematics. Simply put, from our previous example, out of all the students you have in class, how many of them have A? How many of them have B? How many of them have C? So to do that, we are going to introduce our count if function, which means count it if they are fulfilling the criteria. Basically, count if so they are fulfilling the criteria. What are we counting? We are counting from our example, we are counting from a whole class, our class, whether SS1A, SS1, SS2, SS3, part 1, part 5, or in a workplace. So we are counting. So from this, our range will be our mathematics grade. Why? Because we are counting the grades, and for this we have mathematics on this. So we are coming over here, we are counting from this to see how many people had A. What is the criteria? For this one, the criteria is A. It is simple to write just A and close the bracket, and it will give us the same answer. Since we have limited students in class, let's count 1, 2, and 3, which means this is correct. But the dilemma of this is that if I want to change this to B, that means I will need to come back here to change this also to B. I can come under my formula bar to change this to B before this can be changed. What about if I want to make this automated without changing what is inside this formula? If I change it here, I want it to be able to reflect over here, which is the beauty of Excel. Because if you are not automating with your Excel, then you are still underutilizing your Excel. So instead of the route I went before, I'll still go through it. Count if your range is this. And for my criteria, instead of writing my A this time around, I want to come and pick this guy here. Pick the cell L15. So, and then click on my enter. Can you see we still have our A to be 3. But if I decide to change this to B, can you see we now have 2? So I don't need to come back here to type B before any change is being made. So this is one of the ways you can make your flows easier. It might not be in this current application, but then in another general application, it follows the same principle. So for the purpose of our class, let's go back to class and do this. Let's put this on absolute referencing. Don't forget, because I want to copy it down. I don't want to go through the stress of typing the formula all over again. So I want to put my range for mathematics on absolute referencing, so that by the time I am filling down Control D, I can still maintain my range. Can you see that? I can still maintain my range. And then for C, we have 0 for C. And this is how to use your COUNTIF function. I'll do for this also so that you can do for English yourself. COUNTIF, what is the range? This is for science. Coming here to pick the range. And then once and for all, do my absolute referencing. And then my criteria is this guy over here, and then enter. And then again I can fill down, and that settles that. So we can see, and then if I decide to delete all this and just maintain this, I can always be using this one to know whether it is how many people have B. Can you see that? C, can you see? It's just a click. I can always see the change. So your own classwork is to do the one for English. And yes, you can do it to send it to me so that I can check. So for this, we just want to see how many people have less than 90 across board. So equals to count if, what is the range? Let's just pick the whole range. Yeah, just decide to pick the whole range. And then my criteria, I still want to pick this as my criteria, and then enter. Can you see that we have 12? So if you are coming here and you are counting it yourself, this must be 12. And in case I want to change the criteria myself over here to 95, this is still 12. Wow. Let's see again. 3. Can you see that? So which means that we are correct with what we are actually doing. Less than 100. Yeah. 14. Yeah. So this solves the myth of how we can actually use our COUNTIF. In our next class, we'll be looking at our sum product. See you in class.